what happened in that first matchup? Because they gave up a ton of yards to Barkley, and
Yeah.
as we saw last week, the remedy to beat the Eagles, and I'm not saying every team's got the players, the talent, but the remedy is you got to stop Barkley. If you could stop Barkley, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
shot. Washington couldn't do that the first time. Is there any? I mean, do you have any hope or indication that leads you to believe that Washington will be able to stop him this time around?
Yeah, because they did stop him for 3.5 quarters. They first time they matched up, they stopped him for 3.5 quarters. They actually took a 4-point lead into the fourth quarter in Philadelphia on Thursday Night Football. The unfortunate part is that Saquon Barkley had a touchdown run of 39 yards in the fourth quarter and a touchdown run of 23 yards in the fourth quarter, and that is not how you play fourth quarter
No.
defense to stop a game. But Dan Quinn said it himself on Wednesday, like the greatest players in the NFL history, they turn it on the most in the fourth quarter, right? They find a way to close out those games, and that's what Saquon Barkley does for you, whether it be, your defense is fatigued, was certainly that was an impact in that Thursday night game. The Washington Commanders offense wasn't able to sustain a lot of drives, especially in the second half. And just, every time the defense got back on the field, you just watch them get more and more tired. I remember watching one play before one of those touchdown runs where Frankie Louvu was helping chase down a play. And after the play was over, man, he just laid on the field and just caught his breath for a second. And I'm just looking at it, Frankie Lou's that Tasmanian devil type of guy who never stops spinning. So for him to be laying on the ground trying to catch his breath a little bit before getting up to take the next rep, that shows you how much this defense was just really gassed on that night. And so look, this is a winnable game. The Washington Commanders absolutely can defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. They can contain Saquon Barkley. It's not the question whether they can. It's a question of whether or not they will. Either way, Philadelphia Eagles, they're one win away from clinching the NFC East. You know what I mean? If they they've got the 3 NFC East games. They have the Commanders, then they got the Cowboys, and they got the Giants. They only got to win one of them. Doesn't matter which one they win. They win one, and they're the division champs. So I think you're pretty safe to start printing the Philadelphia Eagles NFC East Division champion shirts if you want to right now. But the Washington, if they can prevent the Eagles from doing it for at least one more week, prevent the Eagles from celebrating doing so on their home field, that'll certainly make them feel good. And then, the Commanders do have a playoff clinching scenario if they win and the Falcons lose to the New York Giants, which, don't know how likely that is, but at the same time, any given Sunday. Sure. And then either the Rams or the Seahawks lose, which the Seahawks are facing the Vikings. That's probably the most likely one. The Rams are facing the Jets, look, the Jets, I mean, that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection has been getting better, right? So and it's in New York, so it's a long trip for the Rams. The weather's going to be bad, so don't count them out either. So the Washington Commanders have a path to clinch a playoff berth this year. If they lose, they can't clinch a playoff spot, so it doesn't matter. But certainly this is a game where I understand the Eagles are favored. I understand why they're favored, but the Commanders absolutely have the horses to get a win. Again, it's going to just boil down to execution, which is what you want in an NFL game. You don't want it to be such a talent mismatch that you're just like, okay, we know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it happens. You want it to be a game where if both these sides execute, you're going to have a very competitive matchup.
And with Daniels now, and of course the Eagles look like they're always going to be around with that front office, but that these two teams are the most likely organizations in the East to have success for the foreseeable future. So you got to start winning these games against that other team that could be your big rival here out of the other rivals. So we understand how important that is. What happened the first time around with the offense? Daniel's stats weren't very good. McLaurin had 1 catch. What do you remember about that game that they just weren't able to click offensively?
Philadelphia Eagles defensive front just dominated. I mean, they were able to basically play with their front four and not a whole lot else, rushing the quarterback, stopping the run game. And what that allowed them to do was put what I've referred to as a Bermuda Triangle of defense around Terry McLaurin. Like every single snap, Terry McLaurin went out there to run a route. He had a guy deep and inside of him, a guy deep and outside of him, and a guy underneath him. There was just nothing. I will say that Cliff Kingsbury didn't do enough, in my opinion, to counter that throughout the night, and never really tried to change that. So certainly that was a problem. Now, since then, we've seen Cliff Kingsbury's offense kind of take another step forward. So, if we continue to see some of that creativity against the Eagles, then that should be a difference maker. But look, if the Washington Commanders can't get, this offense starts and ends with Brian Robinson. Like Jaden Daniels is amazing, but this is a run first team, and it's a power run first team, which is Brian Robinson Jr. Last time these two teams saw each other, the Philadelphia Eagles didn't stack the box against the Washington Commanders a single rep. There was not a single snap where the Philadelphia Eagles had to stack the box against Washington Commanders. That is a huge problem when you only have one true blue talented wide receiver and you have a mobile quarterback who needs to be able to get to the edge, because if that defense is not stacking the box, they're not contained within the tackles, and there's no space for Jayden Daniels to run. So this week, the Washington Commanders got to make the Eagles respect them. You know what I mean? And Vic Fangio, like, I don't see Vic Fangio coming out and saying, look, we didn't stack the box once last time, and we had all kinds of success in the world, and we're able to keep our team in the game long enough for Saquon to get humming. There's no reason for him to change that. So unless the Commanders force Vic to stack the box, he's not going to stack the box. And the way you force him to do it is take advantage by running the ball and running it successfully. When Brian Robinson Jr. runs the ball for more than 4 yards per carry, the Washington Commanders are undefeated. When he runs for less than 4 yards per carry, as of this last weekend, because Brian Robinson ran for, I think, 3.6 yards against New Orleans Saints, they're a break even. You know what I mean? And until this last weekend, they had a losing record. So it shows you how impactful getting that power run game going is. And against the Philadelphia Eagles, specifically with that front four, it's even more crucial because, I mean, if you don't make them do it, they're going to have 7 dudes behind the, off the line of scrimmage, just covering everything. And it's just not going to be a recipe for success.
What do you think about if there are some potential doubters out there who are thinking about, maybe I like Washington, I'm thinking of taking them this week against the Eagles, and then they have that in their ear? Well, they haven't beaten any of the top teams yet. What do you think about Washington's chances this week? Considering, like you said, everything that happened in the previous matchup, where they stand right now.
I mean, the first step to beating any good team is competing against the good teams. And they competed well against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, considering where they were as a team. You know what I mean? They lost by multiple scores. But I think considering where they were as a team, Jayden Daniels' NFL debut, all those things, I think you like what they were able to do there. They competed against the Baltimore Ravens. They competed against Philadelphia Eagles. They competed against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in a lot of ways, they're one play away or one score away from beating all of those teams. Again, the Commanders go into the fourth quarter with a 4-point lead against Philadelphia Eagles. That's not an easy thing to do. The Pittsburgh Steelers, that's the play where Zach Ertz gets spotted about half an inch short of first down in field goal range, where that field goal gives them a victory. And I've long made the statement that if that ball gets spotted in favor of Washington instead of where it got spotted, they win that game. And now we're talking about what they beat in the AFC North division leader. Look, they beat the Cincinnati Bengals back when everybody still thought the Cincinnati Bengals were going to get everything right. And, again, it's kind of one of those things where now everybody's like, okay, the Cincinnati Bengals aren't very good. Back then it was, oh, well, they're going to do very, very well. So, it's revisionist history. It's the context that everybody wants to put things in. But if you want to put money on the Washington Commanders to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, I would probably take the points if I were you. It makes the pot a little bit smaller, but it gives you a little bit of a blanket to work with. If you want to take the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously you have all the reason in the world to do so. But I expect this game to be competitive one way or another, and it's important not to stat scout. Go look at the game flow of these games, and you'll see in each and every one of these quote unquote top matchups that the Commanders haven't won that they've been incredibly competitive in each and every single one of them.